Starting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our Vital Healing Kitchen show. I'm Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo. For those of you who don't know me, for those of you who are new, welcome to our show. We do these shows once a month, and we do them for our Vital Health community, but we do allow the public to attend the live show, and we usually leave it up for like 24, 48, some number of hours after, some multiple of days after we finish to watch it, but then it gets moved permanently into our Vital Healing Kitchen community. So if you're not a part of that community and you want to be part of an amazing community of health-minded people with lots of resources and recipe books and recipe shows at their avail, go to www.vitalhealthcommunity.com. And today's amazing topic is breads and crackers. And the reason we chose this is that those are the foods that generally get people off track, right? You love to chomp on a chewy piece of bread, crisp out of the oven, or the crackers and the crisp and all that. And when you decide to get healthy and somebody like me says, oh, you need to go off the gluten, or you need to get off the grains, or you need to change your diet a bit, that's the stuff I usually hear from people that they miss the most. That's really challenging to give up your bread. But here I am to tell you, you don't have to give up your bread. You can eat it. You know the saying, you can have your cake and eat it too. I never did understand that saying, but you can have your bread and you can eat it. You can actually eat it as long as you make it with wholesome ingredients. And I mean, you might want to nickname me the sneaky chef, because I love to sneak really healthy ingredients inside things that seem really decadent. So if any of you have ever seen the cannoli recipes I've posted online, the baklava, the peppermint patties, those are things that I sneak in some healthy things. And, you know, sometimes they're green, sometimes they're herbal, adaptogens, fatty acids, whatever they may be, but I'm sneaking it in. And I've learned to do that for my own kids and for my friends and family members who I love, who may not know at the time that they love the food that I'm making them. And I want them to come and say, wow, this is so amazing. And then tell them after they've told me how good it is, all the sneaky things that I got in. So I'm going to teach you how to make some breads and crackers today. And we're going to sneak a lot of really good things in there that you normally wouldn't get. When you go to the bakery and you get a piece of bread, it has flour in it and sugar and salt and, you know, preservatives and whatever else. Our breads are going to have sneaky things in there like spinach and zucchini and cauliflower and really cool stuff like that, that you'll get your kids to eat and your mother to eat and your sister and your cousin and all these other people and you to satisfy those cravings. So I'm ready to begin. Go ahead and type in the chat and say, yes, I'm ready. Yay. I have some things I've hung, a lot of greens.
Greetings.
A lot of greetings. Yay. Hi for everybody from wherever you are, which I can see because I really feel more connected that way. But if we did that, these shows would go 3 hours and we don't really have 3 hours. I know you don't, I don't, etc. So we're going to try to do this. We're going to try to get this into 1 hour since we are doing this on a weekday. Usually we do them on the weekends, so we're a little more leisurely, but I want to respect your time. And if you're here and you're not in our community, go to vitalhealthcommunity.com and you'll make sure that you get access to the recording that you can watch at your leisure for months on end. If you are in the community, or anybody can watch this on replay later tonight or tomorrow if you have to go in the middle or you're like, what did she say there? One of the things I don't like to do during these talks, because it stunts my creativity, quite frankly, is to go back and repeat what I just said. How much this did she say and how much that did she say? You can go back and listen to it and repeat it, because I may not remember, because I'm, you know, sometimes I'm channeling these recipes, let me just tell you. It's just like, oh, why don't we put this and this together? I've never done that before, but let's see how it comes out. So I've got some ideas written down, some general guidelines written down. I may or may not follow them, which is why we don't give you the recipes in advance, because it doesn't matter if I don't make the same recipes. So are you ready? Okay. So I've got a list of things and we're going to try to make as many as we can. And one of the easy things to make that I'm going to start with is a chia crisp. I don't know about you, but one of my very favorite recipes, one of my favorite snacks when I was a kid was Pringles. You remember they come in a can, a round can, and then you take them out and they have this little like curve to them. They're usually white, I think. So I'm going to make black Pringles because I'm making them with black chia seeds, but you can make them with white chia seeds. And the first time I associated these two things, I was at a dinner. It was a health professionals conference and we're eating dinner. We're talking about recipes that we share. And somebody was saying they're a pediatrician and trying to share some recipes with their moms. And I said, oh, what about chia Pringles? You could hear a pin drop in the room. Like everybody turned to me and said, what? You know how to make chia Pringles? I want to hear this. So when I show you how easy it is to make chia Pringles, you're going to be pretty surprised. And I want you to learn how to make these, and you can make all kinds of variations. Now, I don't remember very much about Pringles other than I liked them, and they were curvy and they were round. But I don't know if they came in onion garlic flavor or, you know, sour cream and onion flavor. I don't know. But I'm going to make them in a couple of different flavors for you and show you how easy that is to do. So there is a little bit of prep involved, very easy prep. You need to take your dry chia seeds and soak them in a bowl, generally, you know, a glass bowl, some kind of ceramic bowl. And you're going to put about 5 times, maybe 6 times the amount of water as you put chia seeds dry. And the reason is that chia seeds soak them up and they make a gel. If you're going to put some powdered things in there, like sometimes I make them with dried tomato powder. I'm out of that, so I'm not going to do that today, but I'll tell you how I would. The powder, the soak powder is going to soak up some more of that water. So that's where I err on the side of more. So I have some dried chia seeds here, which I'll use in a later recipe. But I also have my soaked chia seeds here. And I soaked them with probably a little more water than I should have, given I don't have tomato powder, because I didn't realize I didn't have tomato powder until after I did it. But we're going to do some stuff to soak this up. Now, so this is a little bit more runny than we want. So I'm going to say that if this wasn't so runny, I would take it and I would just take, add a little salt to this and use a measure. Usually it's a 1/4 cup measure. That's a 1/4 cup. And I'm going to pour it on a dehydrator sheet. So if you could give me one of those with the Teflex, I'll just show how I would do it. But we're going to do it a little bit differently this time, just because it's a little thinner and I'm going to add a bunch of stuff to it. So assume this is a little thicker. It's actually 1/8 of a cup that you do. And that's all you do. And that's a little large, but you about 1/8 of a cup, and you put that on your tray and you put as many as you want. But the other option is you can make this a pizza crust. So you can just put a lot of it on the tray and spread it out as big as you want and make a pizza crust or whatever size pizza crust or tortilla. And I'm going to put this back in here. So that's the easy way, just salt. But I'm going to make one of my favorites is Italian flavored. Now, oftentimes I do put tomato powder in the Italian flavored, but I'm just going to get some Italian seasonings, some garlic, some basil, oregano, and you can put whatever other Italian spices that you want in there. And I'm going to add it to it. So what I'm going to do is pour some of this off. And I might actually add to this bunch. I'll just use this. I'm going to use half of it. And I'm going to put a little bit more chia to thicken it up. That's what you can always do if you put too much. Just put a little bit more chia and let it sit for 15 minutes. So I'll do that so that way you can see it. And we'll do the other part of it towards the end. We'll just make the plain ones towards the end. You can see it's thickening up already. Give it 15 minutes. And those little buggers, they soak up to 9 times their volume in water. And I made that other jar with chia, let me see, for another recipe, and I made it a little thicker. I'll show you. So this is more like it should be for those crackers, actually. Yeah. There's an 1/8 of a cup in there, 1/8 of a cup measure. Because I think the 1/8 of a cup is like absolutely the perfect, and it makes these perfect little round guys. Yeah, that's better. So this is how you make your chia Pringles, right? You put some salt in, yum, or some flavored salt, however you want. So we'll put just a little bit of salt in. A 1/4 teaspoon maybe. Not much. Depends on your salt flavor. Like if you have a big adrenal fatigue problem, you're going to want more salt because your body urinates out a lot of excess salt because of the excess cortisol and aldosterone, all that stuff that gets messed up. So I'm just going to do 1 tray of these, and then Pamela will put them in. And then when they come out tomorrow, I'll take a picture and I'll put it on the site. So I just take them and I just pour. I'll show you what this is like. And I'll actually hand it to Pamela. And you're going to meet Pamela in a bit, because she's going to explain something, because she made us a bunch of stuff so that we have the Galloping Gourmet and the Julia Child show today, where we're going to make some stuff and then show it. But she forgot to make the easiest recipe, the chia. So we don't have any of those to show you after the fact. So I'll take a picture and post it tomorrow. But she'll put the rest of them on just like that. And just make one tray of them. So I have something to show tomorrow. And there you have it. Now they will thin. So if they're very thin to start, they'll get very thin. So if I were to put just that in there, it's going to get too thin, right? So they're thin. She's going to do it. They will spread as they dry, and they usually do make these nice rounds, and then they curve like that. It's really cool.
But if I don't have a dehydrator, can you use?
I've never, yeah, that's a great question, because I was to say you can try it in the oven. I would do it on the low temperature. I don't know how long it would take. But you need something. You probably would use a silicone flat, like a silicone bake sheet, because you want it. You don't want it to stick to something. And I think it might stick to a pan, even if you were to put coconut oil on it or something. But you can play with that and see. If you have a convection oven, you can put it on that low temperature and turn it on convection and let it spin around that way as well. But I've never tried it in the oven. Maybe we should try it. Maybe we should do a tray of them and stick them in the oven and play with it and see how long it takes. The thing about chia, flax, things with omega-3s, when you heat them, it destroys the fats in there. It oxidizes them. So it's not as good an idea. That's why if you just put it at a very, very low temp, whatever the lowest your oven goes, and see what happens. You would have to check them periodically. The thing about the dehydrator is the air is blowing. So it's not the static hot air on them. And in a convection oven, it's moving. You've got the tray moving and the air is circulating more than in a regular oven where it's just hot. So play with it and see. I mean, chia seeds are inexpensive. Start with a half a cup and 2.5 to 3 cups of water. Play with it, try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, report back.
Probably use parchment paper, which you bake.
Yeah, that's true. You can do parchment paper. So you get a baking sheet and you put parchment paper on it and give it a try. We could try that. We'll save a little bit and we'll put it on a tray with parchment paper.
Pancakes.
Yeah, they do now, but that's not what they end up looking like. Scott said they look like pancakes, but they do end up looking like these little Pringles. There. Yeah.
They look a little big.
I mean, they're big. They look at, you could probably tilt the thing down so they could see it better. But that's what it does look like. And surprisingly, those will thin out. And you'll have them. And if you want them smaller or larger, you can do it. If you wanted them more like tortilla size, you can actually get them almost like a taco shell if you make it that size, because they do get that little curve in it. Right? The crispy taco shells. So I would say this is such an easy recipe. Play with it and come up with variations and then post it to the site. If you're in the Vital Community, go to the Vital Community Facebook group. If not, go to the Unstoppable Health Facebook group where we're having a keto challenge going on right now. So these are great recipes to show there and you can have a conversation about it. So I'm going to play with this with some of the spices. All right. And just show you how it thickens up and how you can make it really good. So Italian seasoning, you can put a ton of it in there. I have literally put like a jar of it in there. This is probably, I'm going to just measure and see, probably a little slightly less. This is about 1/4 cup because this is 1/3 of a cup. And I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to take a spoon. I like to keep my wooden spoons handy and stir it around. It smells really good. It's got rosemary, basil, and all those awesome Italian things. I'm going to put some garlic, and I'm actually going to put probably 2 tablespoons of the garlic. I just eyeball things, but, you know, if you're new to doing this, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder is probably going to be really nice to give it that Italian yum flavor. And the cool thing about the Italian spices and herbs, they're all like antiviral and antimicrobial and immune supported. The garlic has allicin in it, and the thyme and the rosemary and the basil all have antiviral constituents in them, and they're actually used as medicine, you know, in Chinese medicine and other herbal therapies. So you can make these crackers that are helping your immune system, and that's one of the things we talked about in the description of this. Like, it's winter time and we like those hearty, warm things, but why not make them support our immune system instead of the breads and the things, the baked goods that all deplete the immune system? So these are good things to do. Basil's amazing, not only for your immune system, but for your adrenals. And I'm going to put a good tablespoon, and I might add more. You'll see in a moment how thick this is getting just by adding your spices. So if you didn't have enough water in here, you always have to make sure to put the right lid on, especially if they look similar, because then you have cinnamon that was marked as cloves and you go, whoops. And oregano. Oregano, you don't put quite as much. I'm going to just do a teaspoon of oregano because it's strong. And there's no reason why you couldn't very finely chop up in your food processor fresh herbs, right? If you have an herb garden, we have an herb garden and we have oregano growing all year long, but it's cold outside, so I didn't make it out there to get it. But I'm going to show you in a second how nicely this thickened up. And I do wish I had tomato powder, because tomato is great with Italian stuff, right? And you can just put it in there. But the other thing I do have, do you see if we have like a spirulina or any kind of green powder over there, vitamin or green or any kind of green powder over there, because that would be good too. So I'm going to taste this. I didn't put salt in, so keep that in mind. I always like to taste on the back of my hand, so I can go back. Yeah, warm springs is pretty good. I'm going to put some salt, because it needs it. Now I can put regular salt, I could put smoked salt, I could put this, I love this kimchi, Firefly Kitchen's kimchi. I should get an account with them and, you know, get a link for them because I promote them all the time. I just found them at a fair and I loved it. And it's basically, they take the good Himalayan and pink salts and all, and they also dehydrate kimchi, which is a really good fermented veggie for you. And they dehydrate it and put it together. So it's got a strong garlic. Yeah, it's quite good. Probably could use more basil. So I put 1 tablespoon of basil. I'll probably put a 2nd tablespoon of basil in there. Basil's mild. It's not overpowering. Whereas oregano or garlic, even too much of it, and you're over the top. Rosemary too is like that.
Smoked paprika.
You could put smoked paprika. You put anything you want in here, really. Right? So I'm creating this Italian antiviral immune support thing. And I'm going to taste it again. And then I might, yeah. So we put in like a 1/4 cup of Italian seasoning. We put in a teaspoon of oregano, 2 teaspoons of garlic. If you don't like garlic so much, don't put quite that much. We put 2 tablespoons of the basil. We put like probably 1/4 teaspoon. You might put a 1/2. Depends on your adrenal status, how much salt you really want. Probably was a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to put a little bit just to see how it tastes. First, I'm going to just taste it. But if you want to really fortify it with some greenery, I also have things like broccoli sprout powder. See if I have broccoli sprout powder over there. Wash my hands. That's a little sweet. No, that one's not a good one. That one has stevia in it. So if you're going to choose a green powder, choose a really plain one. This one has stevia in it, so that would match the flavor because it's more of a sweet. I can put that in a dessert. But we do have broccoli sprout and kale powder over there. Yeah. So this broccoli sprout powder I get from Z Organic and this kale powder. And I'm just going to, like I usually do, is just taste a little bit before I add it to something. I want to make sure I fortify without making it yucky. And that's pretty plain. I'm going to put maybe 1/2 tablespoon. I don't want to put too much. You know, always start with a small amount, and then you can keep adding until you get to a point. And I'm doing this for 2 reasons. One, to fortify it, but also one is to give it, to thicken up the batter. Didn't change the taste at all. So I'm going to put the rest of that. So I'm going to put a whole tablespoon in there. And then this is kale powder. Again, taste before you put in there. Don't just go crazy and say, I'm going to add all this stuff. I'll tell you one more thing that I might add to this. It's a little strong. I'm going to put like a pinch. We'll just see. But the other thing I think I might want to add to this, you know, say it's too thin, right? I can add some hemp seeds to it, right? To give it a little bit of more texture. It won't be as thin when I put some hemp seeds in there, but let's put like a 1/4 cup of hemp seed in there. Now we've got this amazing crisp that's loaded with, it's got omega-3, it's got a lot of omega-3, it's got a lot of protein, it's got calcium, it's got sulforaphane from the cruciferous veggies, it's got all the Italian herbs that are immune supportive. And remember, as we advertised this, we talked about it being that support your immune system. Okay, so now it's diluted some of that nice Italian flavoring. If I have more Italian seasoning, would you find me more Italian seasoning in there, Scott? You know where it is. There's a lot of it. I'm gonna put a pinch more oregano. Maybe a little eighth of a quarter teaspoon. You don't want to overpower the oregano. As strong as it is as an immune support, it's that strong flavoring wise. I'm going to put some more just general Italian seasoning. And I'll put another big tablespoon, heaping tablespoon in there. And then I'm going to stir around and I'm going to see how it tastes. You can play with these. You can use my recipe. I have recipes that will post. That would be kind of a static recipe, but I'm showing you this because I want to empower you not to follow my recipes. Anybody can open a cookbook and follow a recipe. I want to empower you to play in your kitchen and think about what does your body need? What does your family need at this point? How can, excuse me, now it just needs more salt. Simple as that. And it's always salt to taste, right? Same thing with sweeten, like some of the sweetening recipes, we use stevia and lohan and stuff. Sweeten to taste. Some people hate sweet. My son, my oldest son, hates sweet. My younger son loves it. Yum. Okay. So now we're just going to do the same thing, and I'll show you how much thicker this is. And what happened to that eighth of a teaspoon cup we were using? I'll just do a couple of them just to show them. Do you have that eighth of a cup somewhere? You can do an eighth of a cup, or you can just do 2 tablespoons, or 1 even. Well, just do a tablespoon. Heaping tablespoon works. It's easier. It works. So isn't an eighth of a cup 2 tablespoons? Maybe it's not. Maybe use 1. Okay. Okay. So again, we're going to just fill the tray. I'm going to run it through. You know what we should do is we'll run one of these as a pizza. And that way when it comes through, I can show them. And we can put the picture in the recipe guide. Okay, there we go. Yeah, well, Pamela will fill it up first. Yeah. All right. See, I'm covered with powder. No, don't wear your best clothes in the kitchen. It's just, thanks. All right. Questions, Scott? Take a look. Any questions about any of that? I know I went fast, and I played. But the basic recipe would be chia soaked.
Somebody wants to know about using essential oils first.
Oh my God, you can use essential oil. So I did Italian. Say you wanted to do Indian, you use curry. Say you wanted to do Thai, you can do Thai. You can even shred in, some shredded coconut in there if you're doing Thai, because Thai goes well with coconut. You could do Mexican. You could put chipotle in there. What's that?
Taco shells.
Yes, if you wanted to make taco shells, yeah, you can just make them plain, or you can make them with some, chipotle and chili powder and play with this. What I usually do is I make a big batch plain, and then I break it up, and I'll make, here's the Italian, here's the curry, here's the whatever, and I make them. Boy, am I a mess. Glad I'm not wearing my best clothes. See, I had a hole in it down there. See? Don't wear your best clothes, or wear an apron. All right, no other questions?
No.
Okay. All right, I'll put these over here. And we're going to move on to making, actually I'm going to make something, I'm going to make onion bread. And there's a couple of different ways to make onion bread. And I'm going to introduce you to Pamela when she finishes there, because she made some beautiful onion bread that she brought. And she made a real simple recipe. And I'm going to start with that one. It's an onion squash recipe that is originally came from our friend Karen Osborne. And it's a very simple recipe, and I'll tell you a couple of variations you can do. I'm going to make a very small batch because we don't have enough zucchini to make all the things we want to make, and a lot of things call for zucchini. So I'm going to use 1.5 zucchinis. Actually, I'm just going to use 1. And what we're going to do with the zucchini is we're going to put it in the food processor and blend it up. We're also going to use some ground flax with this. So I'm going to show you how I took a couple of classes ago, I made ground flax, and generally ground flax isn't going to keep very long unless you put it in your freezer. So I had this in my freezer. So I'm going to measure this out, and then I'm just going to make a little bit more ground flax because we're going to use it. I'm not a big flax fan as far as like the big whole pieces of flax in a cracker. I used to make them all the time. They're very common, very easy to buy. But I get annoyed with the way they stick in my teeth. So I always get around it. So I'm going to make flax tortillas today, and I'll show you how you can soak the flax and then grind it, or how you can use flax as a flour and a binder to hold things together. So it's about 3/4 cup. And I'm going to just take whole flax seeds. I put them in the dry container of the Vitamix because I have one. But seriously, you can just put it in a coffee grinder, or you can put them into any Vitamix or K-Tech Buntech, whatever you have. I'm going to make sure this is plugged in. I'm going to turn it down to low. And I'm just going to show you how easy it is. And you can do this in any blender, and I'll show you that because I'm just going to I'm just going to push them down. If they fly up, they're still not all the way ground, but they're very close. And you saw how quick that was. The one thing you want to not do is over process flax or chia because they're high in omega-3 fats, and the omega-3 fats are very sensitive to heat, light, and air. Show you. I'm going to use some of this to fill this cup because that's what I need. No, I need a half a cup only for this recipe actually. So, but I'm going to need more for later. So I'll just leave this covered in here. Keep it protected from at least the air. And I'm going to take out a little bit of this flax meal and I'm going to make it a half a cup. Good. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the squash, the zucchini, and I'm going to use my knife. I don't even have a cutting board here. Would you mind grabbing me one of the little baby cutting boards out of the bottom? I don't want it. I just want a little baby. Thank you. Yeah, just a little. And just cut them into whatever size you've figured out that your food processor enjoys dealing with. So we're going to put the squash in here. Do you shred it or do you just do I do S-blade. Really? Yeah, I just do S-blade and make them like a, what do you call it? Everybody does it differently. So you can do it on the S-blade and make them like confetti, or you can do it on your, the grinder and shred them. Depends on how you want them. If you want them more latke-like, which is, you know, pieces and shreds, you can do it with the shredder. But I like them like really ground up to make it more like a bread and a dough. So I'm going to put in some onion. It's about a half an onion and one zucchini and around a half a cup of flax. So I'm going to put the, oops, Cassidy, don't eat my onion. I'm short on it. Let me get this to you for the rinse cup, please. Dog waits for the veggies to drop. So I'm just going to run this through, and that's basically it, that and the flax. And we're going to mix them together to make a dough. Yeah, we'll put a little salt in there. Half a teaspoon of salt. There we go. All right, ready, set. Let it chop up really nice and fine. And I'll just go a little bit longer. Just chop them up really, really fine, and then we'll add the flax to it. And the flax is going to soak up some of the liquid. And if you wanted to, you could put this in a bowl and just mix it in by hand and make a dough, or you could put it in the food processor. Very forgiving. And again, with this, I mean, you can make this stronger, and it's going to be pretty strong because it's got the onion, so it's kind of a squash onion bread. If you didn't have squash and you wanted to substitute a different veggie, you can go with something similar. Well, of course, you can do squash or zucchini, but even like something like jicama might work. Jicama is a little gooier. It's a little more liquidy. You might need a little bit more flax to soak some of that up, but you can do that. You could do cauliflower. Cauliflower is a little drier, so you may need to put a little liquid in there, or a little lemon juice in there. Let me show you what this looks like. And if you wanted any other seasonings in there, you could put it in there. It's kind of a nice gooey dough. If I felt like it's a little too gooey, right? I can put it in a bowl. We grab a little small bowl and we'll put that in there and put a little bit of extra flax in there and make it a little less gooey, but it's going to dry in the dehydrator. So you just really want something that's going to hold it together. Then I'm going to bring Pamela in to show us hers and tell a little bit, maybe she made it a little bit differently than the way I made it.
Okay. Hello.
This is Pamela. Pamela is a really dear friend. She came in, I'm not going to hug you because of this, but she came to my very first classes ever that I started to do this about 10 years ago. She used to come to all my classes, and then she became an assistant, and then she became an instructor, and she helped us teach these classes for a while. And now she comes over and helps us with these classes, usually behind the scenes. And she comes over and makes food for me a lot of the time, which is very helpful.
So you teach on a Raw Foods University class.
Yeah, so if you go to rawfoodsuniversity.com, there's a bunch of classes listed there, and Pamela helps us teach in some of those.
So this is one of the classes that we did, and this one was in 2010.
Wow.
And so this is the recipe. Yeah. So the recipe in here is the onion bread. It's called onion squash bread. So it's 6, you can use yellow or zucchini. Peel them, that's good. 2 yellow onions, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 2 cups of golden flaxseed that is ground.
So she made the full recipe.
Yeah, I did the full recipe.
And hers looks pretty. It's going to look prettier than mine because she did it shredded. Look, show them how it looks.
Yeah, this is what it looks like when it's shredded. And but I did end up having to do the onions again with the S-blade because the shredder just doesn't do it quite right.
So the S-blade for the onions, and then the shredder for the squash.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And you just basically you can spread. You can the recipe makes 2 of these sheets full of bread, and each sheet makes for me 9 pieces of bread. So I get 18 slices of bread.
Beautiful.
Have to curl off the edges and. And you can eat the edges for a little snack.
And look how beautiful they look. I mean, you could hold them up again and think about, if you wanted to make a sandwich with that.
Yeah, this works perfectly for a sandwich with some guacamole or nut cheese dip or anything.
Yeah. So I showed you the quick start way, and you did them the pretty way, and you can see some of the greens in there. What's the green? Did you put some
probably pieces of zucchini?
Pieces of zucchini with that didn't
And I used the golden flax. I've used the brown flax as well. Either one.
Yeah, either one works. And so you can actually spread it out. I only made a very small fraction of the recipe. And was this yours the same gooiness as this, or was it a little drier?
Just a tad drier.
Just a tad drier. So if it feels a little too gooey, you just take some of your flax and sprinkle it in the batter and do it, and then you spread it, and you can score it. Do you score it right away, or do you score it later?
I don't even score it.
You don't score it until later. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things we're talking about is scoring, where you could take like a butter knife, not a sharp knife, and you would just take it and kind of very lightly go through, but not all the way through, just to shape it before you start drying it, and then but you're going to have to turn it. So it's on what we call these Teflon sheets. Now this in the oven, people ask, again, I would experiment with it. I mean, sure, you can do it in the oven. Again, it's flax, so it's not going to be as healthy if you do it in the oven, but that's okay.
You can use a pizza rocker. I used a pizza rocker to score mine after it was flipped.
Oh, nice.
And then in the same time, I cut
off
the uneven edges.
Yeah. There you go. We'll just stick that in the dehydrator. And we have onion bread. That's the simplest onion bread recipe that I've ever done. And if we have time, I'll show you another one later on. But I want to move on and show you the pizza crust. Because the pizza crust is cool because you can make a pizza. But what you can also do with the pizza crust recipe is you can make that into crackers or breads. All of this stuff's very versatile. Wash my hands. I'm real.
Lynn says it's going so fast she's having trouble keeping up on the amounts and stuff.
The amounts will be posted in the recipe guide. Yeah. Yeah, if we take the time to go back and say them over and over again so everybody gets it. So I'd recommend you write down as quickly as you can. There's usually a lot of talking in between the measuring, so use that time to jot down the amounts. And the amounts, here's the thing about amounts. I don't really care about amounts. It's approximate, right? So it might be a half a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon, all the same, right? You're just trying to get a consistency. So it was a zucchini, about a half a cup of ground flax, about a half an onion, maybe a little less than a half an onion. And that was it. And then some salt to taste, or, I think about a half a teaspoon of salt. All right. I want to get my water. I'm going to fill up my water again. Where'd my water glass go? Do you mind getting me some more water while I go on to the next recipe? All right, so I want to show you the pizza crust. And a lot of you have seen pizza crusts, and you may not want to make your own. This cauliflower crust is amazing. My kid loved it. I made about probably 6 pizzas for the time he was home for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And this one has cauliflower, almond flour, flax meal, olive oil, tapioca, garlic powder, dried basil, Himalayan pink salt, and nutritional yeast. So you can put all or any number of those in there. So I'm going to show you a simplified my version of that. And we're going to get, of course, cauliflower. And I can tell you that in my world, my crazy world, we can make a cauliflower pizza crust without cauliflower, because if we're out of cauliflower, let's substitute something else. But I'm not going to do that to you today, because I don't want to blow your minds completely. So, so in this recipe, we're going to use the food processor again. So if you don't mind with the food processor, I wish I had multiple bowls for those food processors. I'm going to use some Brazil nuts. You can use almonds. You could use sunflower seeds. You could use whatever nut or seed you like. You can vary it from time to time. You can play with it, whatever it is that you want to do. You can use hemp seeds. I'm going to use a combination of things. I'm always thinking therapeutically. I'm thinking, oh, Brazil nuts are good for thyroid health, and hemp seeds are good for, yeah, I have hemp seeds in here. Where's my hemp seeds? There we are. My hemp seeds are good for omega-3s, good for the immune system, right? Selenium is good for the immune system, good for thyroid health. We can put flavorings in here like oregano, basil, or not. We can make it simple, just a plain crust, and then make the toppings be where all the flavors are. So you see it's very flexible, right? It's very flexible. So what we're trying to do is give you an alternative to the self-rising flour or whatever other kind of flour is used in here. So we'll put in the Escalade, and I'm going to make this as simple as possible. So I'm going to start with, I think I like to start with doing them a little bit separately. So I'm going to put in a couple of cups worth. Most of it I want it to be cauliflower, right? So I'm going to put in like, I'm just going to eyeball it, and then I'll tell you how much it is, because I know by eyeball. That's about it. So it's about 4 cups of cauliflower. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but I'm making it up. Right? My recipe, I can make it up. So we're going to put some cauliflower in there. I'm going to put in some Brazil nuts. And first I'm going to do the cauliflower, pour that out, and then I'll grind up the Brazil nuts, and then we'll put it all together, Brazil nuts and hemp seeds, to make it a dough. So let's just run that on the Escalade. And we're going to grind it up to be like a right on. That means I forgot to turn it off. And I think we have another big bowl. Now you could try just shoving everything in there all at once and seeing what it comes out like. But sometimes when you do that, they chop at different speeds. So sometimes you get chunks of cauliflower that didn't get ground up, or chunks of Brazil nut. So I'm going to do them separately. Not down there. I think I might have used all the bowls. Here, use this one. And let's use this one, and we'll just move this extra cauliflower into, just put that in a bag. We might use it in another recipe. So this is the consistency I'm getting the cauliflower. Just a little smaller than you would do if you were making cauliflower rice. Now look, and I'll show you what's going to happen when we add some of this stuff. there's some liquid in there, right? And the seeds and the nuts, and maybe throw in a little flax seeds or chia seeds to soak it up. If it's too wet, they're gonna soak that up, and we're gonna make this into a dough-like consistency. So Pamela's gonna give me that bowl, and I'm just gonna pour it in there. I'll use my spatula to get it off. It doesn't have to be completely clean because it's all gonna go back together in the end, but we just want to be able to ensure that they get to be ground up similarly. Okay, so did I slow down a little bit? That was about 4 cups of cauliflower, guys. Okay, now I'm going to put in a cup of Brazil nuts, and it could be almonds. I may mix almonds in, sprouted almonds and Brazil nuts. So maybe I'll put like a half a cup. Well, that was a little bit more than a half a cup. I think I want to put 3/4 of a cup of almonds, and I'm going to put 3/4 of a cup of Brazil nuts, half a cup of Brazil nuts. I'm making this up, guys. It's what feels right. I have this thing about food that I have this internal knowing. So if I say it, but then what comes out through my body is different than a half a cup of Brazil. So it was 3/4 of a cup of sprouted almonds, half a cup of Brazil, and half a cup of hemp seeds. We're just going to kind of let them go. Ideally, you would soak them. My almonds were soaked and then dehydrated, and then sprouted and then dehydrated. My Brazil nuts weren't. So ideally, I might be soaking them, but you'll see they're done enough to be able to hold together, right? And that's what we want. We want this to hold together as a batter. Let me see what else I wanted to put in there. Those are the main things, and I may put some chia gel or ground flax, whichever I feel most inclined to do. So if you wanted to hold it together with some chia gel, we could add a little bit of that. We could do both. We could put a little bit of ground flax to hold it together. We could put some chia gel. It's wet, but it's definitely doughy, right? It's holding together. It's still a little wet, so we want to put a little something to hold it together. So I'm going to take that jar that I had of the chia gel. Yeah. And I'm just going to put a little bit. It doesn't take much. Now, if I didn't, ideally this would be the white chia gel, so it may not look the same. I'm putting an 1/8 of a cup, and I'm just, adding it to hold it together. It won't be written down. I'm making it up as I go. I'm not making it up. I'm using a guideline, but it's holding that together much better. And if I want to, I could just sprinkle in a little bit of maybe a tablespoon of flax. And I'm making a nice gel. Now, I haven't put any flavoring in it, right? So the one I got had basil. You can put oregano. You can put garlic. You can put salt. Certainly salt will give it a nice thing. But I'm a fan of tasting. So I'll go, well, what does this taste like? It needs a little bit of lemon. So as we think about our flavor sensations on the tongue, I'm going to put 1/8 of a cup of lemon juice. And I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon of salt. And then if I want to make a garlicky. I could put basil, I could put garlic, I could put oregano, whatever you're in the mood for. If you don't like any of those, just keep it plain. If you want to keep the crust plain, then you can give your flavorings on your pizza toppings. Now you'll see when I do this, that this could be made into bread or a pizza crust. It tastes like it's not quite balanced. So I'm going to put a tad more, maybe another half teaspoon of lemon. And I'm going to add more salt. And I want you to get to the point where you taste it and you say, I think it needs a little something else. And are those your breads? Those yours? That's cauliflower crusts. Okay, we're going to see. Pamela's going to come over and tell us how she made hers. But you'll see it's now it's dough-like, right? I can make this into crust. And Pamela's going to show us hers, and then we'll spread this out, and we can decide if we want to add garlic.
Okay, these aren't quite done yet, but they have been flipped. So, and these are individual pizza crust.
So how'd you make yours?
Well, I was looking for your recipe, and I couldn't find it, but I did find this other one here. It's cauliflower, pine nuts, garlic, basil, golden flax, hemp seed, lemon. I called for sun-dried tomatoes. I didn't have any, but I did have some tomato powder. I use that. Oregano, salt, pepper, nutritional yeast. I did not use much of that.
That's it. Some people don't like nutritional yeast, like my husband, so I usually leave that off of recipes, but you can add it.
That's my problem.
He just doesn't like it, so I leave it out. This is a very plain one, but it's going to be good. So I could add all that other stuff as well, and you can do it to your taste. So grab me a sheet, and I'll just show them how I would do this. If I'm going to make a big pizza. You made little mini ones. I'll make a big pizza crust with this. And then once it comes out, if I don't want to use it right away, I can put it in a big Ziploc bag, and I can save it. And just like I have this one, I'm going to make it similar to the size of this one. Let me show you what this one looks like. It's like this, and you can see the little flecks of basil and stuff in there, and that's what it looks like, right? So this is a good size, I found, as a personal pizza for my kid. Maybe your kid doesn't eat as much as my kid, so a personal pizza would be smaller than that. But my kid is not a kid anymore. My kid's 24, and he weightlifts, and he's, you know, he likes food. This is a good high protein crust too. I'll read you what's in there, and I think this is going to be just as high. So I'll make like a ball in the middle, and if you wanted to use a rolling pin, you could. I got my nice, very old, very heavy marble. Where did this come from? That was yours before I even knew you. You can roll it, right? Or you could just do it with your hands. I tend to like to get my hands into things. So I'll just do it and come around, add a little more. Yeah, and if you know, I did Brazil nuts for a specific reason. I did the hemp seeds. You could, Pamela did almonds. Whatever it is you like, do. Whatever it is you're allergic to, don't tolerate, don't like, family doesn't like, whatever, do, not do. And what I always try to do is balance my omega-3s with my 6s. And the hemp and the chia and the flax have really good omega-3. The almond and the sunflower seed and the Brazil nuts tend to have more on the omega-6 side. So we want to balance it so we don't have too much omega-6 to the 3. And look how beautiful that looks. Even shaping it with my hand, pat it down. If you want the edge to be a little thicker, like a pizza crust, you know, in the pizzeria, you can just get this out of the way. I'll show you how you can do that. And then I'll use the rest of this to make a piece of bread. So, because this is breads and crackers, not pizza crust, but I couldn't bear not teaching you pizza crust. And so you see how I'm doing it? It's coming up with a little lip at the end, so it catches the sauces. The one in that package is just flat, but I'm just going around with my hand and just pushing it from the in finger against the out finger. I feel like I'm teaching a pottery class. Yeah, there. And now we have a little lip, and it's going to make it a little tougher when you flip it, but that's okay. And we may flip it real quick over and then back again. When we say flip, that's what we do, the dehydrator. Now, you can put this in the oven too. So, you know, again, I put it in a low temperature and play around with how long it takes to do it if you don't have a dehydrator. Pretty?
Beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? And I'm going to do one more tray. We have one more dehydrator tray. I'll just make this into bread to show you how it can be either bread or crackers. And when you spread it out, if you're not sure whether it's going to be bread or crackers, you can decide at the end to score it differently and then leave it longer to make it crackers, because crackers tend to have more of a crispiness to them. And I think I might be able to use just one of those. Okay. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try flattening it out on my cutting board and flipping it onto that. That way it takes less time to dry if I put it right on the net. But if it's too wet, I can't. This is not too wet. So I'm just going to do, a small one, and I'll pat it down there and flip it onto the tray. Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. That didn't work.
Good try.
That was a good try. It was. Let me do it on my hand. Yeah, I think we'll see. Yeah.
Deanna has a wonderful homemade grown pizza sauce.
Oh.
She's ready to put it on the roast.
Yeah. So here I can make this into a piece of bread. I can make it into a mini pizza crust. We'll see how this comes out, and I'll tell you tomorrow if it worked or if it's stuck. It may be just better to use the sheets. If you don't have those tough like sheets, or if you're doing it in the oven, you just take some parchment paper, which I have in here, organic parchment paper, and then put it on. Do you have another Teflon sheet? Because I'm not sure. Oh, this will work.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll see. How long do we cook these pizzas for?
It depends. Do you live in Arizona or do you live in Houston? Right? Because the time it takes depends on the ambient air temperature and the ambient air humidity. So I usually will check them to flip them over after about 4 hours. Sometimes, like if you want a really crispy cracker, it could take 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours. If you just want a nice soft bread, it could take less. So, you check them and you go along the way, 12 to 24.
Temperature.
Temperature in the dehydrator, I'd start them at 140 and then turn it down to 110. If you're not going to have the remembrance to turn it down, then I would just start them at 110. And there's one. And you can make, I'll just show you one more thing you can do here. Who likes breadsticks? Anybody like breadsticks? Okay.
Laura says parchment paper is silicone in it. Is that true?
I don't know.
And she can't do silicone.
I don't know. Just read it. I think it's just paper. It says organic parchment paper. Yeah. There. So there we have a nice breadstick. We can put that there. If you wanted to make funny shapes with them, like shaped crackers, if you have kids, you can use cookie cutters and spread them out that way. You make little round crackers like that. That could be a slice of bread, cracker,
Right.
a bit. So this one thing, and here's like a mini cracker. Just do it right on here. You see? Be creative with this stuff. Play with your food. Does it say anything on there about silicone?
This is a product of Finland. Certified unbleached compostable.
Compostable. So I don't know. Silicone is compostable.
Unbleached, totally chlorine free. So maybe it depends on the type of.
Yeah, I mean, that's organic. You might, if you got it at the regular grocery store and it's off-brand. I'm going to show you how to make crepes, which is like breads, right? Sometimes we like tortillas and we like crepes. I'm going to try 2 more recipes real quick. I think I got everything. We did onion bread. There's another way to do onion bread, and it's in let me show you some books where you can find a lot of these recipes. For those of you in the sweet spot, this is a sweet spot solution recipe guide. A lot of these recipes are in here, and they're yummy. For those of you who are not in the sweet spot, there's also this book we have called Driving On to Heaven. If you go to our website, it's a lot easier to find things these days. Go to our website. We actually have a new look to it. We're still working on it, but it's better than it was. And if you click on books, you'll see all my books, and you'll see one called Driving On to Heaven. And it's an amazing collection of recipes on how to make tortillas and breads and all this kind of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it's this is the original, like before we even got it bound, like the original draft of it. But that's all I have left because everybody bought the rest of them from me. And then this other book doesn't have the crackers and breads, but it's a quick lunch and dinner, and it has a lot of the things you can put on them. So it teaches you how to make a variety of different spreads and wraps and what to do with your bread and how to make sandwiches and cheeses and all that kind of stuff. So all of those are on the website if you want to go look. Crepes. This one's fun. Okay, because it's got coconut, and zucchini. And that's about it. And then you can add flavors. And you're like, what? Coconut and zucchini? How can that make anything good? It does.
So it does say it's silicon coated, derived from silicon found in sand and quartz.
Okay. So silicon sounds like it's a natural product. I'm going to cut this open. And I'm going to tell you, thanks to one of our watchers, our subscribers who said, oh, there's a new version of this organic young coconut that she found on Amazon. The brand is Copra Organic Young Coconut Meat, and it's raw and organic and not been cooked. It's just from the coconut. And what you're going to do, you can do all kinds of stuff that you could do from the whole coconut without a lot of the work. This was about, I think it was 10 1-pound bags for about $75, including shipping. Amazon US, I don't know about other countries. We were doing, and still have, and I'm going to compare them side by side, and I'll do a taste test at some point, the one from Exotic Superfoods, which is a little more expensive and comes out. So how's the bread? Are you testing the bread?
Those crackers.
Oh, the crackers. So we're gonna do we're gonna do that cracker. Let's do that cracker next after this, because this is a real quick one. And I'm gonna take, okay, and I'm going to do, let me see the proportion. Crepe. So 2 zucchinis and 3.5 cups of coconut. I'm low on zucchini because I have one other recipe. Do I have any more recipes to do the zucchini? No, I don't. So I can use the 2 zucchinis. 1 and 2. Okay, so I'm going to slice this up. And what you'll see, those of you who are doing our keto challenge and see that we use a lot of whole foods, plant-based fats. So I've used nuts already. I'm going to use coconut in this one, and I'm going to use avocado in the spinach crackers. So I'm just going to cut these into small pieces and put them in my blender. If you have not a high-speed blender, you might want to cut them smaller. And then that was 2 zucchinis, and I'm going to do 3.5 cups of, that's a good one, 3.5 cups of coconut meat. I think that's about a whole bag. There we go. Yeah, so let's just say a whole bag of coconut meat. Let's hang on to that because we may want to use that liquid in here. These are going to be more pliable. These are not going to be a dry bread. This is going to be pliable because it's a crepe. Likes crepes. Like crepes. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be similar to, but a little more dense than those coconut wraps that you can buy. So all this is, look how creamy and beautiful that is. This could be made into a mousse, a pudding, an ice cream, and there's so many things you can do with coconut and zucchini of all things, right? So we're going to look at that, and we can flavor it. What kind of flavorings would you like your crepes to be? Just plain with a little bit of salt? Do you want to have them be so they're versatile and you can use them for dessert or for savory? Do you want them to have some garlic in them? The original recipe that I came up with this had onion powder or garlic powder in there. I definitely think a tiny bit of lemon. And this is when we do flavor balancing. We're looking for that little bit of sour, a little bit of sweet. The coconut's certainly sweet. A little bit of bitter, which the zucchini is bitter. A little bit of salt. So put like a teaspoon of lemon. And I'm going to put this. I really just want a pinch of salt. So I'm just going to put a little pinch of salt. And then I'm going to just blend it a little bit. And this is going to be yummy, delicious. And again, I won't take the time to do that, but if you want to do all the different flavorings. those of you who like amounts, I'm going to tell you it was about 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, and it was about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And look how nice and stiff that is. That's going to make a beautiful crepe. It's going to hold together. And if we have another one of these trays, do we have another one of the Teflon sheets? Ah! Oh no, I dropped some of those. Okay, you get them. I'll grab a Teflon sheet. Here. And I'm going to make a spinach cracker, and Pamela's going to show us hers, and then we'll be done. So for crepes, I know that Elena sells these really nice molds that you can get. They can put on the sheet, and then you can pour your crepe stuff in and pick it up, and you'll get beautifully shaped ones. You can do it that way, or you could just do a pour and pour it towards the middle, and then use a spoon to spread it out. It depends on how big you want them. That might be a large crepe, and if you wanted a smaller crepe, you'd do it smaller, and then you just take your spoon, and I just like to do concentric circles to spread it out like that. That's a big one. We'll make another one with a smaller. Show you how you can make a nice size might be 4 on a tray to make nice, personal size crepes. But isn't that pretty? It's just like that nice light green. And if you wanted to actually have the crepe take up a lot of the flavor in your recipe, you could flavor it with, some more lime juice. You could put a little bit of cinnamon. I mean, there's so many things you can do with this. But try the basics first. Now we have a crepe. And again, these things tend to thin out as you cook them, so don't make them or cook them or dehydrate them. All the stuff that we're doing today is done with a dehydrator. I've never done it without a dehydrator. So I think that if you are a, carb addict and you're trying to get off carbs and onto the non-carbs, invest $200 in a dehydrator. It's so worth it. It's just so worth it. And you save a lot, because if you try to buy a lot of these things, they're super expensive. Like you pay $15 for a bag of onion bread, where you can make a ton of it for $15. Right? So there's your crepe. Nice?
That's a nice one.
Yeah. So I'll put this and we'll put it in later. And then I'm going to do one last thing. Is the spinach one, and you're going to show me your spinach crackers. You can do spinach crackers, you could do spinach crepe. The recipe I have here is putting it all in the food processor. You'll notice that I don't go crazy about cleaning the food processor in between, because the flavors they're congruent. But if I'm going from making a savory to a dessert and I don't want that flavor in there, then I would clean it better. Do we have the Escalade here somewhere? Okay. Pamela, do you know where there it is. It's right there. So I'm just going to put this together. It had onion, all of the flavors that are in there from before are going to work with the spinach cracker. So I'm going to take spinach. And if you don't like spinach or you have an oxalate problem, you can use arugula. You can use bok choy. You can use any green thing that you want to use. And we're going to do probably, half of this. Just show you, it's a few cups, like maybe 4 cups of spinach in there. It's going to break down really quickly, right? It's going to go down to nothing. And I'm going to put a little, a tomato in there. If you're sensitive to nightshades, don't do the tomato. Just leave it out. And that's the beauty of these recipes, right? Not like angel food cake, where if you leave out one of the recipe ingredients, you're not going to get the recipe. It's like, okay, you just do it however you want. You put tomatillo in there. If you're a nightshade sensitivity, tomatillo has a similar texture without the nightshades. I'm going to put a little bit of onion, and I'm going to put, actually, I can put a little bit of cabbage in there. And I really like cabbage, like I like zucchini in recipes, because it gives it this really nice creaminess. And the dog loves cabbage, so she's sitting there waiting for me to drop some. So I'm throwing in spinach, tomato, cabbage, some garlic. Just throw in a nice big clove of garlic. And what else? And then some sort of a nut seed combo or a fat. So I'm going to use some avocado. I'll use the whole avocado in there. What the heck? just is going to give it a nice creaminess. This is actually a large avocado, so it may be a little much, but in my opinion, there's never too much avocado. I love avocado. I just ate one of these whole for lunch. I put it on a big bed of sauerkraut, and that's what I had for lunch. Threw a couple of hemp seeds on top for my omegas, and here we have it. Throw in the avocado. And I like things that I can just throw in the food processor and make. Who likes stuff like that? Who likes the simplicity of just throw it all in the blender or the food processor, right? Without having to do multiple steps. So sometimes I'll see a recipe, oh, that's a good recipe, except too many steps. How can I shortcut that? How can I make it simpler? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but usually it works.
Any other dehydrator recommendations besides Excalibur?
There's Excalibur. There's the one from, somebody help me with that one. What's the brand? It's the same one as makes the Green Star that we have. They make a dehydrator, and they make one that has the metal trays. So that one's pretty good. Avocado, some lemon or lime juice is actually a half a cup. So half a cup. And then we could put some other nut or seed. Let me see how it comes out. I may add some tahini or something creamy to that. I had originally said walnut, but I think the walnut may. It's going to take a little while, but you see how it's pretty quickly. The spinach is just getting sucked in by the blade. And then again, whatever seasonings you want to add. See how quickly it's coming down? There we go. We're going to judge the consistency here. If we think that the consistency is too wet, I may add something like a ground up nut or a seed to pull it together. I have to wash my finger now. It usually tastes pretty darn good. That garlic really gives it a good flavor. We can put a pinch of salt or a little bit of my kimchi salt. One of the recipes I was going to make was and I think I'm going to combine them, make my sea vegetable one. Put a little bit of kimchi salt in there. That was probably a quarter teaspoon, but again, salt is to taste. I don't want to tell you how much salt to eat or not eat in your recipe, but don't overdo it. Don't like throw in a whole tablespoon and go, whoops, that was too much. Okay, so put that in there, and we put the lemon in. I think what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to divert from my recipe, and then I'm going to let Pamela show. We could put ground up organic sprouted sunflower seeds. This was from Raw Food World. They had a sale last month. They were like $9 for this big bag, so I bought it. But you could grind these up and make it into a powder to hold any of your recipes together if they're too loose. That works really well. But I think what I'm going to do is put this in a bowl, and I have a bowl over there. Can I mix these? Or no, this was the plain one, right? I'm going to pour this in here. And I'm going to make a combo. I have these. I always overestimate how much time I'm going to have to do all these recipes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine my spinach and my sea vegetable cracker and make a spinach sea vegetable cracker.
Oh, nice. Right?
Because I ran out of time and I want to show you how to incorporate healthy sea vegetables. And if you're looking to support your thyroid, you could grind up some Brazil nuts and pumpkin seeds in here to get some zinc and selenium, right? And so when you think about, when you take our classes and you learn a lot about what your organs and glands need, it really helps you, because as you're making these recipes, you go, oh, I want to support my thyroid here. What herbs can I use? So this is arame. It's a beautiful sea vegetable. I love this stuff. You can make salads with it. You can do a lot of things with it, but I'm going to just squeeze it out a little bit because it's pretty wet in there already. And I'm going to put a couple of handfuls of this. It was a whole cup in here to start that was dry, and I just soaked it and made it into spaghetti. And I'm going to put about 2 handfuls. It's probably about half to 2/3 of that whole cup that I started with. I'm going to put in a little bit of kelp and dulse powder. This is going to be a seed cracker. Now, if I wanted to make this spicy, I could put some chipotle in it. Kelp. I didn't have much kelp left, but I put dulse. The other thing you can do is think about other herbs you want. So I was telling someone the other day, like a good combo for bone health, nettles, horsetail, and alfalfa. So I have it ground up here, and I could just stick it in any recipe. It's very mild, doesn't have much of a taste, but I can fortify all my food to support. Oops, piece of zucchini didn't get, oh, piece of onion didn't quite get blended up. I'll use that in another recipe. So I'm just doing it by hand. And I can add a little bit more of the sea vegetables because it's not overpowering right now. So I think I'll just put the whole cup in there. What the heck? And you can figure it out for you how. So it was a cup that I soaked. Now I have it in here. This is good timing for this class because I'm leaving town on Friday and I can carry my wonderful crackers with me. Isn't that nice? Now it's a little loose for making the crackers. I want to hold it together a little bit. So what are my choices, right? I already have ground up flax and I've used that in a few recipes. But if we're getting tired of flax, what I could do is grind up some of those nice sunflower seeds in the dry container or any container. Yeah, so what I'm trying to give you here is an approach to making these things, right? There's no, set way that they have to be done. So what I'm going to show you, though, is how I determine that it's a little bit loose, right? We could do it, but it's not going to turn into a crunchy cracker if it's that loose, right? So I'm going to put something to suck in some of that. I could grind up some Brazil nuts. I could grind up some of those sunflower seeds. I could do a combination. I could put walnuts. These are already sprouted, so maybe I'll do the walnuts and the sunflower seeds. I'll make a 6-3, getting my balance there. I'm going to take my small Vitamix container, and I'm going to do enough so that I do a half a cup of each. About a half a cup of sunflower, a half a cup of walnuts. By the way, these walnuts I bought on Amazon, and it's a company called Pecan House, of all things. Scott thought there was a big bag of pecans. It's actually walnuts, and they're already sprouted. The only way you get a really good price on them, though, is to buy the big batch. If you get the small batches, they're like $17 a pound, but if you do it in like a 4-pound, you get them for like 10 or 11, so that's not too bad. When you see some of these recipes that call for almond flour or any kind of nut or seed flour, you don't have to buy the flours. And in fact, I recommend that you don't, because they've been done and then are sitting around and oxidizing. So I prefer to do it myself. Okay, so it's going to take just a little doing, but I prefer to take the sprouted nuts or seeds if you do it that way. And if you don't, you can do it without sprouting. But if you have a lot of digestive issues, you're going to digest much better. So I'm just going to move that around a little so it's still funky. Yeah, so my it's probably fine to buy almond flour, but it's probably not as good for you because it's not as fresh. And once you chop up things that have fat in them, they tend to oxidize. So I'm being picky, I know. So I'm putting this whole cup of nut seed flour in here. So whatever it might be for you. And I chose the sunflower seeds are a good source of lecithin, which is a good source of phospholipids. So it's good for your brain and memory. And I like to use my hands. You could use a wooden spoon to just kind of mush it together. And that's going to hold it together. And if I still think it's too wet, I may just add a little bit of that nice fresh ground flaxseed that I did. Just put like a couple of tablespoons. Mix that in, and that'll soak it up. It could have been chia, could have been flax, could have been anything. Okay, and then we're going to go and spread this out on the dehydrator tray, kind of like we've done before. And then I'm going to let Pamela come over and tell us how she made hers. And any of these things could have been done with fresh ginger, fresh turmeric. I like to spread them out still little chunky pieces of nut in there that didn't get ground up. It could be a feature, not a detriment. Spread them out.
Okay,
And
well,
go for it.
here is one of the trays of spinach crackers. And these have been flipped, and you see they have irregular edges. I don't bother to get rid of those unless I'm taking them to a party or something, and then I keep the edges for us at
Nice.
home. And but anyway, so you can do, and I made a couple of different flavors. So
Yeah,
there's that one flavor that's, I did those on the diagonal, and then I did some other ones that are squared off, right angles. So these are spicy. I
Nice.
wanted to tell the difference between them because these are spicy, and sometimes I'm in the mood for spicy, or my husband is. And these others too. This is another one.
Oh yeah, tell us what's in there before because it's probably a little different than what I did. Maybe not much, but
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is from one of the first classes I ever took with you, Ritamarie,
Oh.
a long time ago. It's crackers and crust, and I don't remember
it's
when
probably
this was.
in the Dried and Gone to Heaven because most of those ended up in Dried and Gone to Heaven.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I've loved it. I make that, and it makes a great pate as well. Baby spinach, a medium tomato, medium onion, 2 cloves of garlic, a quarter cup of basil, a cup of almonds soaked overnight, an avocado,
Very
half a
similar.
lemon juiced,
Yeah, very similar.
and a teaspoon of salt.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it.
Very similar. It's just just like variation. I added the sea vegetables to it.
We made in the food processor and then spread on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it's fun to do
It's
that.
so fun.
Flipping on the. Do people know about flipping?
Yeah, tell them about flipping because you've said it a few times. So people who haven't done much dehydration may not know. And there we have it. I'll put that in as is.
Okay.
And then right before we flip it, and she'll show you what we mean by flip it. It's on this Teflex sheet, and she'll show you how you get that off that because you want it to be dried through. And we're going to flip it, but it has to be dry. Look how gooey that is. Yeah, it's pretty gooey.
It's just beautiful.
Isn't it
Wow.
pretty? Yeah. Okay.
So if you're making a sheet, and this is partially eaten already, but say that these were just on the Teflex
We
as
can
well
put
as
it back
the
on
mesh.
the Teflex sheet. Let's just see if we have an empty one.
Ah, you do right here.
You do? Here, let me move that.
Oh, I hate to.
Yeah, I'll move it.
though. It's right there on the trash can.
I'm going to move this out of the way. Here you go.
All right, I'm going to put these back on here so we can see.
Hydrator.
So let's say that this is, if you have the Excalibur, it's really nice. It's just this frame. You need a frame, and then the mesh sheet, and then the Teflex. And this is, we'll just pretend like these have not been flipped yet. I'll just show you the flipping process. So to do the flipping, you need another frame, and you need another sheet of mesh. Turn it upside down on top of your crackers. These are probably going to go places because I've already cut them
There we
apart.
go.
Yeah. And you just flip it, and then you take off the frame, you take off the mesh, and you'll have to peel back the Teflex because it'll be wet, and then you stick those in the
And then you
dehydrator
stick
for
it
the
back
second.
in because it'll be wet and you'll want that top to dry and you want the full air circulation. She's already done it. So, yum! We're done. How was that, guys? I told you an hour. It was an hour and 20 minutes. I'm so sorry. I get carried away with this stuff. Next time, 3 recipes and we'll get done in time. Yeah. So is that good? Anybody have any comments or questions before we hang up? Say goodbye. So tell me, what are you going to make? Make a commitment, post it in there. What are you going to make and when are you going to put your picture? So post your pictures to the Unstoppable Health group or the Vital Health community group. And for those of you who are not in our community, I highly recommend you join. You get this call, this class once a month. Usually they're on Saturday afternoons, the last Saturday of the month, but it varies sometimes when I travel. And then you also get a health topic where it's either me or one of my trained practitioners, health practitioners that are teaching you some kind of health thing that's in their stuff. Last month we had a couple months ago, we had somebody talking about dirty electricity. We've had people talk about making your own liposomal vitamin C. I talked about last month colds and flus, which I owe you guys a handout. I'm working on it. lots of stuff like that. And then we get an open Q&A where you can just come on and ask me questions. So it's well worth it. Go to vitalhealthcommunity.com. Great community of people, very caring, very loving, and very supportive of this healthy lifestyle. So Scott's going to tell me if there were any last minute questions, and if there are, I'll answer them. And if not, we're going to say goodbye. And those of you who are in our challenge, and Ashley, when you're editing, you can take this part out because it won't be irrelevant. But a lot of thank yous. Yeah, so if you're in our keto challenge, then in about 10 minutes, I'm going to go live in that group, and we're going to just talk about how to get started. Those of you who don't know about it, we have a healthy keto challenge. You go to healthyketochallenge.com starting tomorrow. A lot of hullabaloo today, and healthy keto. Everybody's doing keto, but they're doing the bacon and butter version of keto, which I think can be very detrimental in the long term and for some people in the short term. So what if you can get the benefits of keto, and I'll explain what that is, and also the benefits of a whole food plant-based lifestyle, with mostly whole food and plant-based in your diet. You can do it and you can get the benefits of keto, and I'm sharing how. 5-day challenge, totally free. Go to healthyketochallenge.com and go to vitalhealthcommunity.com and sign up for our community. So thank you everybody so much. No last minute comments, or who's going to make what? Did you guys post? Anybody going to commit to making one of these recipes? Start with chia crisps. They're so easy.
I'm going to make crepes.
Crepes.
Cauliflower pizza crust, of course, will be made.
Yes. Yay. Cool. I'll take pictures when I take them out. I'll just snap some pictures and I'll post them to the Vital Health Community site so you can see what came out. And we'll post it to the recipe guide. So usually the recipe guide and the video take a couple of weeks for us to get edited and set up, and you'll have that. In the meantime, you can come back and use the same link where you came to here to watch the replay for a couple of days, and then we'll take it down. So if you're not in the community, vitalhealthcommunity.com. Much love. Have a great evening, and thank you for being here. Bye now.